starts to waver. It goes all over the world. From the mouth comes the surah, from the mind comes the world. Right? We will start to think about everything. In fact, it is in namaz that you will remember something that you had forgotten. Right? That you would have had forgotten, suddenly it comes into your namaz. That is the beauty of these prayers. It comes back into. My wife tells me that I want you to go and get some groceries. I forget. But as soon as I'm in the prayers, suddenly that thought comes into my mind. You see. That child acts differently. That child will say Allahu Akbar and he will walk away to do the things he or she wants to do. She'll go, she'll say, Mom, this. She will go and talk to Mom, whatever, grandma. You are still in your prayers, and whatever action you are in, the child will come and then join you back again. That child is very honest. When it comes into his mind, he goes. He does whatever he wants to do. That is why, my brothers and sisters in Islam, when you are standing in namaz-e-jama'at, and that namaz that I do at home is a big difference. You understand? It's a very big difference. If I'm praying at home, Allah will accept my prayers, inshallah. But it is between me and Him. But if I have joined namaz-e-jama'at, and I'm with several other people, if one person's prayers are accepted by Allah, everybody's prayers are accepted. Your chances are higher in a jama'at than it is doing it on your own. You see. In fact, you are encouraged that when you are doing namaz at home, gather your family and gather them together and lead the prayers and lead them into jama'at. You see. Because prayers are very important. That's a foundation. Prayers teaches you ethics and morals. Prayers teach you what are ethics and what are morals. In kubilat ma siwaha. In ruddat ma siwaha. If your prayers are accepted, everything is accepted. If your prayers are gone, everything is gone. Everything that you worked for in your entire life is finished because you did not conduct your prayers. So ethics and morals are very important. And that is what helps me and you living in this part of the world. A neighbor should be able to tell. He should not have to define and say he's a good Muslim or a bad Muslim. Because you cannot be a bad Muslim. You have to be a good Muslim. You understand? Our behavior is important. Sometimes we go home and we will sit with the family after the majalises, and we will say, did you see such and such person? Did you see what he was wearing? Did you see what she was talking about? What do you think happens to the mind of the child? He starts to build. Negativity builds in his mind that the people that my parents are with, somehow there's something wrong with them. There was a student who came to a scholar and said, should I be a good person or should I be a religious person? That's an interesting question. If your child came to you and said, Baba, should I be a good person or should I be a religious person? Why? Because in the media he reads that such and such NBA player making millions, NFL player making millions, but he is among the most charitable person. And he sees me and my dad and my family, well, to contribute to the mosques and centers is secondary. To serve humanity is sort of secondary. I need to just look after myself. You understand? So he sees that, and he comes and he thinks to himself, should I be a good person? Should I be a religious person? Because I don't see a religious person doing the kind of things that a good person does. Right? So you have to make him understand. See, a good person does not have to be a religious person. But a religious person has to be good. You understand? A religious person must be good. The highest ethics and morals should be in that person who is religious, or is not a religious person. So we see today the world, everywhere you'll see. You probably will get clips tonight and tomorrow all over WhatsApp about all the juluses that are going on around the world. And never think Hussein is yours, or never think Hussein is mine. Hussein belongs to the world. He belongs to humanity. You don't have to be a Muslim to love Hussein. You understand? That is not the criteria. Hussein's love is so powerful that it does not look at the religion of someone. He looks at the need and the characteristic of that individual. When that individual raises his hand to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Hussein listens. This is the beauty. In India, there are Brahmins. And among them are known as Husseini Brahmins. What do? These are Brahmins, they're Hindus. They fast from tonight until Sham-e-Ghariba. They do not eat anything, they do not drink anything. Not only that, but they keep their lips shut. There is no discussions. There are tabuts in the homes of these Brahmins, and they go and visit each other. They do not wear shoes from tonight all the way until Sham-e-Ghariba. And you ask them, because we don't do that, you ask them and you say that you are fasting for 23 hours. Why? They will tell you, because our king is related to Imam Ali Zainul Abidin. This is what they will tell you. Why? Because Janab Shaharbanu had a sister. This is their belief, not ours. This is their belief that Janab Shaharbanu had a sister, and that sister was married to the king, the Brahmin's king. When Imam Ali Zainul Abidin and them arrived in Karbala, they wrote a letter. They say Imam wrote a letter to the king. He wrote a letter and said, we are here in Karbala, we would like you to come and help us. They are very proud about that. They will say that we went, when Imam Hussein said, Hal min nasirin yansuruna, we decided to go and help. But we did not reach there on time. This is an outsider. He's not a Muslim. How fortunate are we, me and you? Just imagine that God gave us privilege to be among those who love Ahlul Bayt and Quran. It is in our hands, my brothers and sisters. Ahlul Bayt is with us. We are so fortunate to have been born as lovers of Ahlul Bayt. These people are seeking the love of Ahlul Bayt. There's a big difference. But we do it opposite. We become seekers. And they become those that when they ask for anything from Ahlul Bayt gives them. That is the irony. Why? Because we have to have, our hearts have to be clean. Our minds have to be clean. Yeah. If heart and mind is clean, when we convey salams to Imam Hussein, he does reply because it is wajib on him. Salam is wajib. For me to convey salams, it's my choice. But the moment I convey salams to someone, he has to reply back. It is wajib. One of the struggles we have is on the day of Ashura. As a community, and I need to let you know, the struggles we have is that when somebody comes and says Salamun Alaikum on the day of Ashura, we don't reply. We are supposed to say Azam Allahu Ujura. It's wrong. Azam Allahu Ujurana wa Ujurakum is a way to give condolences for what transpired in Karbala. But if somebody conveys salam to you, it is wajib on you to give him a reply back. You cannot ignore that person and say, "Bhai, hamare culture mein," chodo bhai culture ko. Do the things that Payghambar has asked us to do. He has taught us that when somebody conveys salam to you, greet him back. If he says, "Shake hands with me," shake hands on the day of Ashura. Don't be someone that says, "No, maine ye kar sakta." It is wrong. Ayatollah Sistani was recently asked by Sheikh Hilli, and Agha said it is wrong. To convey salams is sawab. To give salams, to reply back, is a lot of salams. Right? Now imagine, the one who conveys the salam, he gets 99 rewards. The one who replies back gets only one. But it is wajib on that person. Therefore, and that's why I was talking about mantiq and logic last night, right? What does logic tell you? Logic says that I perform namaz. And what do I do in the namaz? I'm conveying salams. Assalamu alayka ya ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. I'm conveying salams, but when somebody comes to me, I disregard it. That is wrong. If you are a believer of Ahlul Bayt, if you are a believer of Hussein, then do that which Hussein used to do. It has to be our faith. Hussein is Islam. Every act that he had was never un-Islamic. Even in the most difficult situation, he stands in Karbala. If somebody conveyed him salams, he would give reply. He wouldn't say that the days are tough. So, learn that aspect of Islam, because it is supposed to be part of our faith. That when somebody conveys salam, you give him that reply. If somebody wants to shake your hand, because you run into this trouble in our cultures, usually. That question comes every year. On the day of Ashura, somebody will come and tell you, "Hussein bhai, somebody is giving salams to me." I said, "Give salams." There were 4 converted ladies in a mosque in New Jersey. Just let me tell you something. In New Jersey, they had never come to our majalises, but it was on the day of Ashura. 4 of these ladies, believers of Abu Abdullah Hussein, they come into the mosque and they say to the ladies, Salaam alaikum. Not a single lady replied back. ये हमारे culture में नहीं. They sat down, disappointed that what sort of Muslims am I among that would not even reply to my salam? What message are we going to give to the outsiders? You understand? Salam is among the, the Holy Prophet said, Afshu salam. The very first thing he introduced to civilized a society, he said, initiate salam. Initiate salam. In America, they don't say salam to you, right? Americans don't say salam to you. But when you are in an elevator, they do have the courtesy to ask, hi, how are you? What was your day yesterday? That's courtesy. That salam is that first courtesy. That when you convey to someone salam, you reply back to that individual. You understand? Therefore, it is very, very important. We are part of a faith where Imam Hussein went to Karbala in a united form. He never went in a singular form. He went into united form. It did not matter whether somebody was Shia, somebody was Sunni, somebody was Christian, somebody was Jew, somebody was Hindu. To him, it did not matter. What mattered was that his objective was to save humanity. And he went with everybody. To the extent that he leaves Mecca and on the way he finds a Christian lady. She is so poor. She was sitting on the road and she was extremely thirsty. She had a son with her. And she says to Abu Abdullah Hussein, I need some water. She's asking for water. And Imam is coming. So what did Imam do? At that very moment he hit the ground and the water started to pour. She said, from today I have full faith in you because you provided me water at the most difficult time. You know what Imam Hussein says to her? He says, why don't you send your son with me? And he said, where? He said, I'm going to Karbala. We're going for a mission to save humanity. And that son joined Abu Abdullah Hussein in Karbala. You see, it didn't matter to Imam Hussein what faith you were, whoever you were. That is why sometimes the Christian philosophers, when they write, they say, the Shias have never understood Hussein. Hussein did not fight for them. Hussein fought for all of us. He gave life to every religion, they say. Every religion he gave life. Because the concept of oneness of God would have been gone had Hussein not done the very thing that he did in Kabul. Everything would have been lost. That is Hussein. Napoleon. Who doesn't know Napoleon? History, we read about Napoleon. Napoleon's information came into France recently, declassified. Because after all these years, they decided to release. Who was Napoleon? In there, one of the questions is being asked of Napoleon, what is the best name that you like? And he said, Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
This is a fact, my brothers and sisters. He asked him. Then he has written a couplet. When Britain attacked France, that evening, Napoleon is saying, he writes a couplet. You know what the couplet said? The couplet said, "Oh Jesus, tonight I do not want to call you for help. I am asking Hussein to help me, for he was very successful in his mission." He is writing that. This is Napoleon. Hussein is absolutely amazing. You seek from him, and if you have sincerity, he will always give you. Do your prayers, do your wajibats, and ask Imam. He will never refuse you. Never refuse you. He will give you. In Lucknow, in 2008, there was a Hindu man, a warrior. He saw the julus of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in Lucknow. He said he goes to see the alam of Abul Fazl al-Abbas. He requests that they give him. He takes that alam, he's holding on to the alam of Abbas. And then he said, "Abbas, I don't have children. Give me one son, and I will give my son in your name." He asked, in 2008, that man is still alive, till today. He did that. Within 9 months, they had a child. They had a son. This man was a warrior. Of course, when he might have gone there, he might have held on to the alam, not realizing that things will come very fast. You ask from Abbas, you'll get it. So what does he do? He has a child. It's a 6-month-old child. This child, he is in his house in the middle of the night. He thinks to himself, "I have promised Abbas that I will give up my son." It's a 6-month-old baby. So when his wife was sleeping, he takes this little child and he starts to walk towards the cemetery. He says, on the road to that cemetery, a thought came into my mind about Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the way he was taking a 6-month-old baby. He said that thought process just came into my mind. I had tears in my eyes. Now I was more determined to give up my son. He says he goes into this cemetery because he was a warrior. He was going to keep his promise. He digs a cover and he lays this baby into that cover. And he said, with a very heavy heart, I close the cover. He comes home. He comes into his house and his wife opens up the door with that child in her hand. And he is stunned. He looks at her and he says, "But I took this child away and I buried him." He said, "What happened?" He said, "As soon as you left, I don't know where you had gone and I was concerned about the baby. But there was a tall man who came to the door and said, 'Here is your baby. When you give something to us, we don't keep it, we give it back to you.'" He said, "Tell your husband, this is Abbas, this is Hussein. Tonight we are sitting here because it is Shab-e Ashur. This was a very difficult night. A night that Imam Hussein had requested to ask Abbas and say, 'Abbas, go and tell them that I want one more night.'" And what was that night for? He said, "For Quran and for Salah." That is it. Imam knew he was going to go to Jannah the next day. He is an Imam. But in spite of that, he asks that give me one night so that I can do salat and I can recite Quran. This is why it's important, my brothers and sisters in Islam. The least we can do for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is to open the Quran, for which he gave his life as well. Imagine just reading a few verses of the Holy Quran and just trying to understand. Quran is a miracle. It will never give you the same answers every time of the same question. It is amazing. But read the Quran. Make sure you conduct your prayers. Don't miss it. Don't ignore it. Make sure you sit and say to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein that, oh Hussein, you gave up your life for us. This is what I am willing to give you now. But this was, Allahu Akbar. This night is a very important night. What happens, he goes around the tent. He goes around each of these tents, just scanning it, trying to see what is happening in all the tent. There was, when he started to walk out, there was a companion whose name was Hilal. He comes over to Imam Hussein and he says, Aka, what are you doing in the middle of the night? There's nobody, everybody is in their tents. And Imam said, what are you doing? He said, I came out because I saw you coming out. So he holds Hilal's hand. He said, Hilal, come here with me. He takes him to a place and he says, Hilal, do you see this place on Karbala? This is where Ali Akbar will fall. He starts to show him everywhere. Then at one point Hilal says that I could hear a voice of a lady. I told Imam, who is that lady? And he said, that is my mother, Fatimatu Zahra. That is my mother. And at that point, Imam starts to scan and he goes from tent to tent. Every mother was preparing their child. Imam admired them and their courage. And then he comes to his own tent, where Janab Rabab was sitting with a 6-month-old baby and Janab Sakina. So at that moment, Rabab says to her husband, Aka, I'm very sorry. Imagine this mother says, Aka, I'm very sorry. And Imam said, why? Because she said, I don't have any children to give you old enough. I don't have any old enough children to give you to die for your sake. The only person I have is 3.5-year-old Sakina. But I cannot send her. Rabab had no idea what was going to happen to her 6-month-old baby. For Imam had said even his name was listed. And at that moment, she says, Janab Rabab, in the next day, she calls Janab Zainab and says, Zainab, here is my child. I prepared him, I groomed him, here is my child. Can you ask Hussein to go and fetch some water for him? And at that moment, she must have not told. She says to Zainab, I don't have the heart to give my child to Hussein to go and fetch water. Why don't you do that? And Zainab goes to Imam and he says, this child, the mother's milk has all dried up. Rabab is having difficulty feeding this child for the last 2 days. have not been able to even murmur from his mouth. He is so thirsty. And Imam Hussein takes this child and says, "You are a Hujjat Khuda. I am taking you," and he takes but listen how he comes. He comes in front of the troops of Umar ibn Sa'd and ibn Ziyad and Yazid. And he says, "I'm laying this child on the ground. If you feel that I may drink that water that you may bring for this little baby, then I'm leaving this child on the sands of Karbala." And he moved away several feet and said, "Come and feed for yourself." When he said that, it is said that the people within the army were shooken up. They were shaking that how Imam is seeking water. There were those who said, "Give him water." There were those who said, "No, don't give him water." The big argument started, and at that moment, Imam realizes, he comes back, he takes the child again in his hand. And then he's holding in front of them and asking for water. At that moment, Umar ibn Sa'd tells Hurmala, "Iqta' kalam al-Hussein." My brothers and sisters in Islam, after this event of Karbala had happened, Mukhtar was the man who was taking revenge. He calls Hurmala. And he says, "Hurmala, come here. Tell me what happened on the day of Ashura. How many arrows did you shoot?" And he said, "There were 4 most important arrows that I shot." He said, "When I was getting ready, the first arrow that I shot was in the eye of Abul Fazl al-Abbas." He said, "The second arrow that I had shot was on a little child, the son of Imam Hassan, whose name was Abdullah ibn Hassan. When Imam Hussein came down from the horse, he was being held by his mother, and he left his mother, and he came to the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and he said, 'What did you do to my uncle?' And he said, when he said that, I took this arrow that went right into his heart." Allahu Akbar. He said, one arrow I hit was on the day of Ashura that went into the heart of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. But when it come to Ali Asghar, he said, "You know, I shot my first arrow, and suddenly I saw a lady near the tent standing outside watching me. My attention left because it seemed like she was the mother of the child. I lost my shot, the arrow went away." He said, "I started second time, but third time Umar ibn Sa'ad said, 'Hurmala, don't miss it. Iqta'a kalam al-Hussein.' So this time he said, I took out an arrow that is usually used for hunting camel. It was a big arrow. I put it in command." And he said, "I could see the skin of Ali Asghar." He said, "I saw the skin of his neck, and I shot that arrow, and it went right through his neck from one side to the other." Can you imagine what must have happened to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? Hussein is trying. He sees the arrow into the neck of his child. He's trying to remove it. But he said, "If I remove such a big arrow from his neck, I will sever his neck completely. Many of the scholars said he actually never took out that arrow. He left it on his neck because it was not possible for him to pull it out. Now Hussein turns towards the Khaymah, and he never did this happen to him. The whole day of Ashura, he was never ashamed to go back to the Khaymah. But on this occasion, he is wondering, how will I approach the mother and give her the child? Narration said that he went back and forth 7 times. Tomorrow, on the day of Ashur, when you come for the amals, don't miss these amals. When you come for the amals, one of the acts that we perform is exactly what Imam Hussein does. He goes towards the tent of Rabab and he says, Inna lillahi wa inna إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. He went back and forth 7 times before he reaches Rabab. The first thing Rabab said, what kind of people are these that the arrow they have shot into the neck of my child is an arrow that is used for camels? And at that moment, Hussein says, Rabab, let us go and bury the child. Rabab and Hussein go behind the tent. And he gives this little child in the hands of Rabab. Then he looks up in the sky and says, Ya Allah, have you ever seen a father digging the child of his son, digging the grave of his child, and the mother holding the baby? May Allah accept our tears. But this is what he says. And then he takes the little baby and he puts him into the ground. History says that as he was doing that, a man came around and said, I'm looking for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And Imam said, well, I am Hussein. He said, but when I left Medina, your daughter didn't tell me that this is the state that I will see you ever. He said, I am a messenger from Sughra. I have brought a letter for you. He said, she told me that when I will arrive, I will see Hussein sitting on a chair. On his right will be Ali Akbar, on his left will be Abbas. I did not expect to see you in this condition. Allahu Akbar. When that happened, now Imam buries his little child. The day of Ashur goes away. It is 11th of Muharram. And that is why, my brothers and sisters, it's very important. The mission of Karbala starts on the 11th. And here, Imam Hussein is gone. Suddenly, Umar ibn Saad is gathering all the heads of all those who had died. The heads were severed from their bodies. Suddenly he realizes that the little head of Ali Asghar is not to be seen anywhere. He says, where is the head of this little child? Shimr said, somebody told me that they had seen Hussein go behind a tent. Maybe I will go and find him. He takes a spear. He sits on the horse. He keeps on hitting the ground. And suddenly, the arrow, the spear, goes into the body of Ali Asghar. He lifts the lash of Ali Asghar. Sakina was watching. Sakina was watching what Shimr was doing. She says, he lifted the spear, and you know what he did? He takes his knife. And while holding Ali Asghar, he removes his head. Sakina comes running and goes to Zainab and says that every time in Karbala, everybody died once. Ali Asghar died twice. Last night, in the morning, he was hit with an arrow. Today, they cut off his head. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم بحق محمد وأنت المحمود بحق علي وأنت الأعلى بحق فاطمة وأنت فاطر السماوات والأرض بحق الحسن وأنت المحسين بحق الحسين وأنت كريم الإحسان إلهي توبة قبل الموت وراحة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت والنجاة من النار ودخولا في الجنة وعافية من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة ماتم حسین
ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم 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 عباس کا شب ماتم حسینہ ماشاءاللہ سب مل کے آئے شب ماتم حسینہ شب ماتم حسینہ سب مل کے ماشاءاللہ جناب سیدہ کو پرسہ دینا ہے شب ماتم حسینہ فاتحہ جو کر نہ سکی بھائی کا دیدار وہ بہنا جو کر نہ سکی بھائی کا دیدار وہ بہنا حسینہ شب ماتم حسینہ این شب شب ماتم حسینہ بابا تھا جس کا حیدر کرار وہ بہنا بابا تھا جس کا حیدر کرار وہ بہنا این شب شب ماتم حسینہ این شب شب ماتم حسینہ این شب شب ماتم حسینہ ارد دنیا کو سکھانے والی آئی بازاروں میں زینب والی آئی بازار یا کو سکھانے والی ماشاءاللہ سب مل کے ورد دنیا کو سکھانے والی